Okay, thank you, Will. Let's go ahead and begin our first meeting of the Pedestrian and Bicycle Safety Committee for 2024. Almost hard to believe it is 2024. But we have a full agenda today, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to just briefly share the agenda. Try to. Just advance that. Doesn't seem like it wants to. Oh, okay. Thank you. So we'll have we'll call the meeting to order. We'll review the agenda. As you can see, this is exactly the same thing we shared out earlier. We'll go through the minutes. We'll have a brief safety contact. Hey, Cindy, how you doing? We'll have a recognition for one of our former members who couldn't be with us. And we'll also welcome two new members, which is really exciting, Brad and Mark. I'll take a moment just to review our team charter because it's something we don't normally share, but I know we did it at one of our, Mark, at one of our community meetings in Bethany West, because people had a little different perception of what this team's really about and how does it fit in with the council. So I thought it might be helpful just to sort of have a new team to review that. We'll go through and talk about our various reports where appropriate from the police department, programs and outreach, Julie, if there's anything, town management, and then really want to try to focus on the updates of our focus areas. That's really where the sort of rubber hits the road a little bit in terms of the efforts going forward, any other items, and then just confirm future meeting dates. Okay, does that sound okay with the agenda? Do we have a motion to accept those as they are?
So moved.
Thank you. Second. Take a vote. Are we
Aye.
Unanimous? Great. Thank you. Aye. Let's go ahead. This is the minutes, and I apologize. Christy sent these to me yesterday, and I plugged them into our overview, but I did not send them to you directly, so that's bad on me. But it really captures the results of our meeting we had back in November. I'm not going to go through each item. I think it's, as I was sharing with Brad and Mark, really what our focus has been toward the latter part of the year has really been to try to obviously get reports of where we're doing, current state, but it was really sort of focusing on where we want to be as we're moving into 2024. Our efforts, our ideas, our focus. And that's really what the items are on the sort of the latter part of that on the right-hand side. And, but we're going to talk about that more today, so sort of leave it at that. Okay? So do we have again, my apologies for not getting these to you in advance. But do we have a motion to approve the minutes as they're presented?
I so move.
Thank you, Diane. To second?
Second.
Thank you, Art. We take a vote?
Aye.
Okay, looks like it's unanimous. Thank you. So the safety contact I want to share with you today, and I've shared this with you before, and it was just sort of this is just really sort of brainstorming a little bit. But I was looking at, I think it was the National Safety Council, and just thinking about how we can help assess how we're doing or how the community's doing. And this is just a very simple checklist. I left a copy of it with you on your, in front of you. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but it's just an idea to think about how we can engage and think about the progress we're having. And there's some copies in the back if anyone would like one. But it just sort of goes through and asks some questions, right? I mean, think about, did you have room, and this is sort of from a pedestrian perspective, but do you have room to walk? Was it east? Wow, man, I blew that in there too quick. Was it easy to cross streets? Did drivers behave well? Was it easy to follow safety rules? Was your walk pleasant? And then there's sort of a scoring from sort of a 1 to 6, and then also most importantly, some opportunities to improve. So this is some things just to sort of spur our thinking, and not that we have to use this or will use this, but I think we ought to think about as we're moving forward, how can we engage people around how we're doing, right, from their perspective. So just use this as sort of a thought starter. Having said that, any upgrades, ideas, thoughts around that?
Mickey, if I could,
Sure,
one
Art, thank
thing that I notice, again, being here during the season and the off-season, is this continuous issue with the flooding on the north part of Pennsylvania Avenue. And I've heard, over the last 10 years that supposedly it was going to be fixed. It was going to be fixed. The latest I'd heard was a couple years ago that they were apparently identified a damming situation where they could dam up, I guess, some of the waterways a little further up, which in turn would either completely clear out or minimize the amount of water that would build up. But the reason I bring this up again is the fact that, when those streets, the, First Street in particular floods out and the shoulder areas flood out, both bikers and walkers inevitably get into the street itself.
Yep.
And a lot of times, it gets dicey because a lot of drivers are not expecting them there. A lot of people are not paying attention the way they should. So I was just curious to see what the latest is in terms of the effort to try and resolve the issue with that flooding down there. Because again, the more people that are in the area, I think this becomes more of an issue.
Yeah, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on that, only because we literally could spend hours, and we have teams that are really trying to focus on that. But well, let me just leave it this way, and Teresa can add to it from a council perspective. I am really excited that we are moving forward with this opportunity to look at trying to have some kind of a retractable dam for the Loop Canal to give us some relief. It's not going to solve everything, and whether it would have solved that, the nor'easter we had the other day, I doubt it. But if it gives us some ability to remediate some of the flooding back there, right? So I'm excited, but that's still a long way off, right? That's just the final engineering study. We've approved that. Then we've still got a lot of work to do after that. But I think that my takeaway for Art from what you shared is just really thinking about when we have those kind of events, that should be an area of focus, what we can do to help people get around that safely, right?
Right, exactly.
We're going to have it for a while, right?
Right.
And even if this dam works exactly the way it's supposed to, whenever it gets in there, we're still going to have issues, I guarantee you, right? And so, Teresa, anything from your view from the council perspective?
So I agree with you, Art. Like I walk that way all the time, and you're in the middle of the road. That's
Right.
the only way to get safely past there. I think the plans are being drawn up, like bid plans are being drawn up, but it's the regulatory process with DENRAC that is challenging,
Okay.
and there's really no good timeline for that. So we're controlling the parts we can control, and then we just have to push through the rest of it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that update. As I say, I walk into town that way almost every day, and
Yeah.
when the water's there, it becomes a real challenge. And
It
it's-
is.
And I look for cars coming behind me when I'm in the street,
Sure.
but sometimes they pop up very quickly.
Yes,
So,
agreed.
anyway, I appreciate your work on this, and hopefully this will be resolved in a timely manner.
Yes.
Yeah. So go ahead, Carl, please.
It's not just up here on the north side, it's also the south side of, probably the south side of the streets farther back, Tingle, Hudson, those all flood. People, if they want to get out, they either wade out or they get in a car and somehow drive out. So it's not just a small area. In fact, the people at Stewart's Watch say that when it really floods, they don't have a dock, they don't have a porch or a deck, they have a dock. And as an example, yesterday, the water was over our dock for a short time, but then we have another one coming Saturday,
Yeah.
I think. So it's,
Yeah.
it's
Again, we're not going to be able to solve those within our purview within this committee, but I think the thing is we really do need to be thinking about, as you all have lifted up, is what do we need to do when we have those kind of events to help people get through those safely? And I think that's certainly an area of focus. I saw Ron actually came in, Ron Caleb, who's a member of our council. He's actually the assistant mayor, vice mayor, and he is leading the team around this. And I would love to bring Ron up and talk about this, but they literally have a team focused on this. So Ron, is there anything you want to add to what we've talked about? Hey, Ron, could you come up to the microphone just so folks can hear you? That's the problem with showing up at these meetings, Ron. You know how I work. You know, I'm going to grab you and...
Now, he tried to sneak in.
Sorry, I came in the middle, so I didn't catch a lot of that. But I heard you talking about water and the dam and everything, and you know, everything's moving along pretty well on the dam, and I think it'll be a major, major contributor to the town as far as you know, alleviating some of this, what they call nuisance flooding, especially over in the areas that we just discussed on Tingle and Bethany Villas, and you know, all these communities that are north of 26, they get hit very, very badly.
Yep.
You know, the town's done the best they can. I know there were just some efforts made down the end of, or in the progress of being made down the end of Evans, where water builds up, and there's a couple of valves back there that they're old and haven't been working very well, backflow valves, that are being replaced. They're on order. I don't know, you know, they may have come in and may have been installed for all I know, but I know they were ordered very recently. And there's some pumps back there too that are being replaced, so that they should work better. But you know, and the dam, yes, it'll help down Pennsylvania significantly, so the engineers say. I believe them. We'll see.
Yeah.
And you know, it's moving along. It's actually in final design, and it's been they've started the permit process. The engineers have actually met with Denarec and reviewed the initial permitting phases. So it's
Yep.
proceeding along.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate the update. Again, Ron and his team are doing some great work with this, and actually a lot of efforts on what we can do as a community to try to address this as well. So, Ron, thank you for your efforts and leadership with this. Appreciate it. Okay, let's move on, and we'd like to do a little bit of recognition here, and this is for one of our former members who joined us. And, you know, I'm not sure how he's going to react when he sees this photo, but he has seen it before, so I could not resist pulling this out. So this was during our parade, but Tim brought, and as you all know, working with Tim, brought some great energy, great passion around our efforts, both around the community engagement, helping get us organized, and would love to continue to work with us. It's just his work demands have changed a little bit, and we recognize that. He still is going to help out. I absolutely guarantee you he'll be a valued resource. But so this is really just sort of a thank you to Tim and his efforts and everything. So the thing I actually want to point out to have a little fun with this, so that gentleman in the background in the yellow blazer or in the yellow safety vest is Bruce Cole, who's a former council member. But aside from all that, he's the head of the parade committee, okay? Which of all the things in Bethany is a big deal, right? And I just want you can't really see it well, but look at that face he has looking at Tim. It's like, what the heck is going on right there? No, but I didn't even notice it until I put this picture, and I'm like, wow, that's a great photo. But there's another one of Bruce a little bit later. He's smiling, so I don't think Tim did anything to throw him off too much. But
Marshalling right there.
yeah, exactly. But literally, all kidding aside, we really just wanted to thank Tim for his efforts and his contribution to the community and his willingness to continue to help us out. So thank you, Tim. Janie, please. Yes. Janie knows Mr. Schweitzer pretty well.
Love it. Janie Switzer, 318 Wellington. I am Tim's wife, and he could not be here today because he's in the office. So I just wanted to say thank you. He's enjoyed being on this committee and getting more involved with the town. And his career, for good reasons, has gone in a different direction, and he's very excited. So you'll probably continue to see me more than you will him, but he will be here a lot of the time. Just didn't feel like he could give 100% all the time. So I have something for each of you from Tim, and this is related to safety in the community.
I like your necklace.
Yes, thank you.
Janie, thank you so much, appreciate it, that's awesome, thank you.
He's got lots of flashing lights.
He's got some serious lights.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Great, Janie, thank you so much, that's great, fantastic. Well, I think that speaks to the Schweitzer family and their contribution, so thank you so much, that means a lot, so. Okay, let's move on, and we would like to give a little bit of space for Brad and Mark just to introduce themselves. We obviously went through the process with the community, or with the town council and the write-ups and the whole thing, but that's all good and fine. But Brad, if you could just introduce yourself a little bit and what fires you up about this effort, and that'd be great.
So my name is Brad McIlvain, and I've grown up on the Delaware Shore. My parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, and if you believe Ancestry.com, way back to long before I even know anything about history, we've been on the Eastern Shore. So when my wife and I were able to buy a home here in Bethany, it just felt like I was coming home. And I'm an avid cyclist. What I love about Sussex County and cycling is I don't have to tailor my route for the hills. And I love the fact that I can go get lost, and turn off all the beepers and things on my bike that help me find my way home in Montgomery County. And here I just go get lost. And so I love the nature and the beauty that is only accessible by walking or by riding. And I think it should be very easy to find and experience these things safely.
Awesome. And Brad, we welcome you, and we're looking forward to your contributions, and it's awesome. Love the passion, love the energy, so that's fantastic. Mark?
Thanks. I'm not a native like Brad, but I've had a house in Bethany West, near where Mickey and Teresa both live, for about 20 years. And I now live in Tingle's Addition, where we were just talking about all that flooding. Right, 6th and Evans, so not too far from the end of the street. But my favorite activities in Bethany, I'm also an avid cyclist, and I love to walk from Tingle's Addition or Bethany West down to the boardwalk and to the beach, and so being able to do both of those activities safely is, top of mind for me, and something I really care about. So I'm really honored and pleased to be part of the team. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Mark and Brad. We're really excited to have you, and a lot to do, so we'll be able to tap into your energy and passion and commitment, so that's super. Thank you. Thank you to you both. So the next thing I want to do is just share briefly, again, you've probably seen this from a while back. This is just sort of basically a cut and paste from some of our charter documents that are on the website. But I just want to highlight how, the team charter for Pedestrian Bicycle Safety Committee. It's just, think about it as its relationship with the town council. The reason I shared this is because as I was having some conversation, actually Tim and I were presenting something to our community. There's a little bit of question, where do we fit into the community in the governance process? And it was clear to me that if folks are asking that question, we need more clarity. Right? So we're there to support the town council and the town management team. We're not off on our own doing this or that. We are literally part of the town governance. You all are part of that now. And, but it just sort of goes through the scope, right? Evaluating conditions, issues, making recommendations, working with the various, whether it's DelDOT, the like, try to think about communication strategies to keep people safe and informed, sharing information and researching and doing things sort of external. So that's sort of our overview. I just wanted to, again, as we have two new members, I thought it would be helpful just to sort of connect back to that and provide that. So any thoughts or questions for those of you new or have been on that to add to that? We okay? All right?
I did
Please,
have
Carl,
one.
go ahead.
Yeah, I was driving through Dewey many times, and I noticed that the crosswalks there are all it's a brick pattern, and I think it's asphalt, but it looks like brick. And it really stands out to drivers that, this is a place where pedestrians cross the street. They even have them outside of town. I noticed even going up what is called the Forgotten Mile part of the way. And I'm wondering why we couldn't have something like that also.
We do, in town,
Yeah,
yeah,
right here.
right. So I guess we'd have to work through Del Dot to go up 26, right?
But all of Dewey is Del Dot.
That's fair.
There, on one.
Okay.
So if they can do it there, I would think, and they've put on some, not nearly as many as they need, but in Rehoboth, they've got the big overhead lights, and not that I think we need those, but I think it would help drivers
Yep.
know exactly where pedestrians are coming, particularly on farther away from Route 1 and 26 here. Well, I mean, farther up Route 1 and down Route 1.
Okay, great. Thank you, Carl. That's a great, again, that's really one of the beauties of this team as we talk about issues and we think outside the box a little bit, what are opportunities? So let's hold, we had two ideas around both the water issues as well as the crosswalk. So let's think about that when we get into how we can incorporate that into our areas of focus going forward, because that's really where we've got some meat that we can try to address it. So thank you, Carl. Anybody else, any upgrades or thoughts from
I
what you saw?
just
Please,
want to add,
Diane.
according to what, just to add on what Carl says, and this is not something we can do, but I did see in the paper a couple of weeks ago where one community painted flowers and whatever it was next to the biking lanes, so cars knew that was where they shouldn't go, and where the bikers knew that they were in. And I know that's, I think the crosswalks, different patterns would be good, but I just thought that other communities are thinking of things like
Right.
this to keep people in their right lanes.
Right. Dan Rosenblatt couldn't be here today, but he shared with, I forget whether he sent it with, did he send it to everybody or just me? Just me. I'm sorry, I'll forward it to you. It was actually an article from the Washington Post, but they have done some work. This was in the urban area of D.C., of where they're doing some actually artwork, if you will.
The artists are doing it.
It's sort of a combination of art, but to make things more visible, right? So it's actually this, they didn't have a lot of examples of the artwork. It was a lot of verbiage on the topic and what they're trying to achieve. But, again, I think we can be thoughtful in how that might help us, and thinks of, how to make these things more aware, more appealing, more eye-catching to folks. So, great. Thanks, Diane. All right, let's move to the next part. And so this is just our general reports. We'll have the Sergeant Foley, the police department. Julie, anything you have from a programs perspective? I don't think we have anything update from the town management perspective, but, so, Sergeant, your floor, sir.
Very little I have, which I'm happy to report. We've had little to no traffic incidences with bicycles or pedestrians on the roadways. The one thing I do have regarding our bike checkpoints, I spoke to John Fiore, who helps us with our bike checkpoints we had very recently. He was scheduling his entire summer 2024 list, which I have here. Del Dot has 14 set up from Thursday, May 30th to Wednesday, August 14th. Believe it or not, the two that we have in Bethany, that we do these by ourselves and they kind of piggyback off us.
Right.
They love coming down here because we have so many positive engagements with people, which they love. So he's asking to join us again, which we're all about. The dates that we have, I usually try to stick to the last week in July, just because they're the busiest rental weeks, and the first week in August. There was also mention in our November meeting about doing another one July 4th week. Is that something that we still want to do? See some nods and some shrugs. We could talk about that down the road. I'll just make sure that we order enough bike lights and we can throw it together really fast. I'll just schedule something for our social media handles to get out there. But tentatively, we're going to schedule for summer 2024 we're going to coincide with OHS and Del Dot last week in July. I don't have the specific date for that now. It's usually a Thursday morning, and then the first week in August. we'll come back to the July 4th week. We can schedule that as it gets closer. I'll get bike lights and have everything ready to go.
Okay?
The next thing I had, the walkability checklist kind of struck me earlier. I mentioned before, and I kind of threw out ideas. Diane and I were out there kind of engaging with walkers and cyclists in the summertime. I don't think that went as well as we thought it would, just because of a lot of contributing factors that didn't have to do with us. I mentioned the idea of maybe jumping on a trolley and doing that while people are kind of stuck. I think that's something that this group should maybe focus on, instead of engaging people while they're out and about, is maybe get them while they're seated, if that makes sense. And also, I mentioned a library booth, like setting up a booth maybe inside. That walkability checklist, there was 6 questions on there. That's something that we could ask people while they're out and about. How did you feel? How was the behavior of motorists and stuff like that? They really don't want to engage those questions with us when they're going from point A to point B. So just throwing that out there, because that kind of struck when I saw it, that would be a great idea for the trolley rides and stuff like that.
Great.
All the other stuff I have is for the J1, our future engagement, so I'll hold off for that.
Okay, and so, Officer, thank you. We'll come back. I want to actually build that into when we're talking about our focus areas, because that fits right in, right? Whether we're our safety, our bike safety dates, as well as a potential third, that's where it would fit right in. So let's just come back and grab that at that point, right? Super. And then also with the potential trolley and the like. Yes. So that's great. So hold that thought, okay? Great. Joy, from outreach program leader perspective?
Yeah, so same with me. If you want me to hold, I have a strategy moving forward for 2024.
Okay. Okay. Why don't we hold that piece?
Yeah. But as far as an update
Yeah.
for what we've done,
Yeah.
The Christmas, the holiday happenings event, we did hand out 50 of the stockings with the shirts and brochures, and people were genuinely happy to receive that. Just they were curious, and it was just an obtrusive way to get the message out, and everyone was in a good festive mood, and so hopefully that did reach some families there. So.
Yep. Awesome. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And again, the thing I know Julie doesn't want us to forget this time are the T-shirts, and make sure we get those moving this year. So
we did 50 at least.
we got 50. We moved it. So, but that's actually great. We recognize we do have a nice little giveaway we can engage people with that we were really working on last year, and then things got moving so quick that they showed up, and we were already sort of doing our thing. But the great thing is now we got them, right? We're all, no supply chain issues on that one. We got it. So that's great. And I don't think we have anything from the town, so we'll, I don't think. Okay.
Could I just ask, in general,
Absolutely,
I
Art,
think the
please.
town does some wonderful things, and I'm wondering, a lot of times, I keep hearing the thing, boy, I wish I'd known that was happening. And I'm just wondering, I notice it's great, and the town sends out these notices via email about the various meetings that are going on, whether it's, our committee or other committees, or the town council meeting. I'm just kind of curious in general, in other words, again, the holiday happenings. Is there any, I don't know what you've done, so I'm asking, kind of curious, in terms of just publicizing that, because I noticed, again, I talked to a number of people, and they, we were talking about the pony rides and things like that, and they kept saying, oh, wow, I'm in the area, I wish I'd known about that, I would have definitely brought my kids down. I'm just curious to see how, in general, events going on, like the Fire and Ice Festival, are promoted.
I could tell you, as an events director, that's the worst possible thing that I could hear.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I'm just
Not a
trying to
slam
give
to
you
you, but
feedback,
just in
that's all.
general, because
Yeah.
we have a lot of communication channels that we try to get the message out to, knowing that a lot of people are not on social media.
Right.
But we do have a big following on social media, so we're out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. In addition to that, we do reach out to the people on our email distribution list.
Okay.
With notes. We do print ads. So we try to cover all different mediums just to reach that demographic, whichever way we can. So certain things we add last minute, and we've missed the print deadlines, but we do always try to do it in the upcoming information. So we ask for opt-ins, people to opt into our lists, or people to follow our pages. It's always up on the website, so there are a lot of different ways people can find out about the information. But that's a good question, because we hear it a lot. And we have a rolling digital sign up at the bandstand that tells week to week what's happening that week.
Okay.
So we have our community billboards that we put for 4 different places. We have our library. So it is out there.
Is there an email? In other words, what I was thinking is, for example, again, the reason I even bring this up is I think you have great events. I really do. And like the Fire and Ice Festival, I remember I went to the first one, and they've just gotten better and better.
That's the chamber, but yeah.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, these events that are going on in town. And for example, like I said, with these emails that go out to the community here in terms of meetings, I notice I get something about events going on in coastal Sussex that basically lists like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and a whole list of stuff all the way from like Milton all the way down to Selbyville and Fenwick.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something like that that would be publicizing things going on in town?
We do our press releases. We also post our events on Southern Delaware Tourism and Delaware Tourism.
Okay.
They're on the chamber list, so you have to go specifically to those unless we're included in their newsletter. As far as the opt-in lists, I only send out news and announcements as part of events, not, there are 2 different lists. One's the official notices from the town, so depending on which one you opt into, that's when you get the message. So, yeah, we do try to hit all those fields just to.
No, I think there's an awful lot of wonderful things going on, and now that I'm over here full-time, I'm able to go and find a lot of things, but what I'm finding is I still have to dig a lot of times to find things. And
yeah,
I think it just, the
prints,
easier we make it for everybody, I think the more participation we'll get, which I think would be wonderful, whether it's the biking event or, all these different things going on. I would assume we probably want to get as much participation as possible.
And that's another thing we're going to talk about upcoming. We're working on, the town is working on an app that's renter-friendly, so for people who aren't here regularly and they're just here for the week, they'll be able to see what's coming.
Great. Thank you very much. I think you guys do a great job. I was just curious.
Thank you for that, because that's important to know how to find out, so.
Yeah, so I mean, I sort of look at this as sort of like, this is an evolving process, and Julie and her team are doing an amazing job, right? And we're continuing to build that, and every one of those opportunities is something we can plug into, right? If you think about pedestrian bicycle safety, there's very few things where we're bringing people together that we can't have some kind of a connect with that, right? That repeated awareness, that repeated kind of engagement. So, Art, your point's right on, right? And as we continue to work on it, and we're going to talk about some more of the specifics with that in a little bit, so.
I think Art needs to be on the Wave 2.0
I think we have an idea,
subcommittee.
Julie, I already made a little.
I'd be happy to
little
help.
scratch over here, so no, you.
Happy to help.
You and I have worked together long enough, we know how this works, right? No, that's great, thank you. Sure, I appreciate it. Okay, let's move into, I do want to share one thing just from a town management perspective. This is really from all the board members, but I mean, we do have a pretty big projects going on around pedestrian safety, right? And that's the Collins Street, Kent Street, Wellington pathway. That contract has been let. Every resident on the community that's impacted has got an individual packet. They've been invited to actually schedule a meeting with the town engineer, the contractor, and our public works manager to sort of go through specifically how it's going to impact them. It's up to them whether they do that, but the community's reached out. So the goal is, we don't have a firm start date yet. I was hoping to have that, but we don't have it yet. It's in the process, but the goal is to be done by May 15th. So that, I think, is going to be a significant improvement around giving people a pathway, particularly pedestrians, to use one of the most public, most transited walkways that doesn't have any protection right now, or doesn't have any leeway. So I'm excited about that as well. So that's just from a perspective of the town. Okay, let's move into, and I know a couple of you have been just great about holding off a little bit till we get to the focus areas. That's really what I want to try to focus to. So these are the focus areas that we have so far. We've got around, and I'd like just to sort of go through each of these individually, if you will, and again, nothing formal. We'll just sort of give an update of where we are, but there's certainly some topics that we've talked about this morning that can fit into, I think, these pretty well. The first is around sort of our next evolution of WAVE, whether it's 2.0, 3.0, I've lost track of that. But it's all about how do we engage people, right? Building off the wait, assess, verify, enter an intersection process. We're looking at potential additional rectangular rapid flashing beacons. I think that's actually the first time in my life I've actually said that, and I'm sure it's not even right, but it's about as close as I can get. On Route 1, we got the J1 program that Sergeant Foley talked about. The March workshop that we had some interest in putting together as to sponsor for our community. We've got some updates around that. The Beach app and newsletter and all the communication art that you were just speaking to. And lastly, other opportunities for community engagement, whether it's HOAs, whether it's, whatever in the community. So those are the sort of the 6 major focus points that we have so far. So what I'd like to do is if we can go through each one and sort of speak to where we are, what we need to do next, what resources we need, and we utilize the rest of our time really. That's really where the focus is. So, and again, this is for Brad and Mark, I'm sorry. Not enough coffee yet, Mark. Feel free to jump in, because what I've really done is just taken Tim off of those lists, but you're not there, but it's only because we'll do that today. Okay? Fair enough? And there's nothing firm with it. This is just really just sort of a start point. So it's just to help to provide work that we can do offline, and then we come back here and report, and we're sort of making progress on things, right? Okay, so how about the first one around this sort of Wave 2.0? Anything to share, thoughts from Julie, Teresa, Carl?
Yeah, I find that the people who disregard the bicyclists, particularly, I'm talking summer, are the J1 students. They're the ones that ride on the sidewalks. They're the ones that don't wear the helmets, and even though they've been given helmets. Obviously some do, but some don't, and I've been forced off the sidewalk many times. The other thing I would say is on the south side of Pennsylvania Avenue, people get out of their car and they walk down the bike lane. So if you're biking down Pennsylvania Avenue, you have to go in the street to get around them. And there's no other option for them. And I know that we've talked about at some point maybe sidewalks, but until that happens, that's always going to be a problem.
Okay. So those are particular areas that we want to try to address. How about around, we've done some work with, actually we've done some really nice work, I believe, taking and Julie, you helped coordinate, you and Dan, around the videos and the like that we've been able to utilize. And any ideas to take those forward to?
Well, what I did was
Please.
I narrowed it down to the top 10 for 24, the top 10 events that we can promote to. And here is just a listing as a
Okay.
quick recap, and this might be able to help you. Fire and Ice is a chamber event, but the town does co-sponsor that. We are having a movie on Friday, January 26th. It's a 3D movie, so we'll be there handing out 3D glasses. I thought maybe we can get some, our sculpture is going to be of an orca, so I thought maybe some bags and stuff it with a T-shirt and brochure. And if anybody's willing to,
Yep.
I think it's 6 to 8 is when we'll be there, so if you want to hang out and talk to people, it's just a fun night, but a way to reach people in the off-season, so there is a good crowd there. Ocean to Bay Bike Tour is also a chamber event, but I did speak to Lauren, and she said the best way to reach them is not for the experienced riders. Go for the novice ones, which are called the Coastal Cruisers, and they do travel the shorter distance to the Big Chill Beach Club, and they're not so familiar with bikers' etiquette. So she said we could have a booth there and give out our swag bags just to have a presence and just to try to reach that group. And their target is 750 riders, so that's a good way of reaching them. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, that's great.
And then, of course, there's our concert series. We're going to include WAVE in our program. We print out about 1,500 of those, but we do hand out more. People download it, they look at it at the app, so there's another way of reaching a nice group of people. Poseidon Festival is Memorial Day weekend. That Sunday is the meet and greet that the police show up and they do a great job with. And our lifeguards, it's just a way to meet the personnel that are involved with the town that help with the safety and just to get to know. So including somebody or a couple people to represent, as we did last year, which is good for information. And our meet and greet is that Sunday, May 26th, 5:30 to 7, I believe. I'll have to double check, but that's the time slot. Craft show is Saturday, June 1st. We should get a booth there, do an application. We do have more that we could put on that booth, although we will welcome your grandchildren's artwork again. Maybe they could do a logo or something.
It's too funny.
And then movies on the beach, yes, we will do the preview of the little ad before the movies. I also reached out to 1440 Film Company to see if they had any B-roll or any photos that we can use just individually to market. We talked about taking each point and just focusing on each point and marketing those instead of the whole thing as a whole, just to separate it and make more of an impact with that. So I'm waiting to hear from them if they do have that. Otherwise, we'll just craft our own.
Okay.
Our museums are open year-round, but they're more active in the summer. So just by simply having our brochures there is going to reach people as well, along with the Chamber Welcome Center. So our museums, we have one in Town Hall, so anyone who comes in to pay their bill or just visit, they could pick one up. We do have the Heritage Trail walking tour, which if we could put it right next to, which would be appropriate. Of course, the Nature Center and the Dinker Irvin Museum. And then the 4th of July celebration, have a spot at the bike table, which is appropriate. You know, we talked about maybe doing stickers this year and have
Decorate the helmets.
Decorate the helmets. Yep. Yep.
That's a great idea.
And then again, have a float in there. It's the 40th anniversary of the parade this year.
Oh,
so
is it really?
Yeah, if you want to think of some fun ideas for a wave, that would be good. And then we're doing kids and teens nights on Wednesdays in July in the bandstand. So again, we can, people love free stuff, so we can give out more things there. And it's just a carefree way of reaching people. And then again, our holiday happenings will be next December 7th. So that's just 10 of the top events, in addition to our other communications, the event as we just discussed. And then, of course, the police events. So I think that gives us a good coverage that can at least reach a good portion of people, right?
That's great. Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome.
So I'd like to add one thing when you talk about the film piece, and I know, like you say, I think you've reached out to the company to see, I'm going to use the wrong term, but do they have any sort of, from what we've already done, we can craft some additional?
Yeah,
That's
so
your-
if they have B-roll, that's
B-roll.
film that we haven't used that still we've paid for that we should have access to. So
Okay.
if we want to take any of that raw footage and
So-
use.
So,
Is that something that Brad could do? Or do you do, like, I know you do audio, do you do visual as well?
I mean, sorry. I certainly edit and all those other things. I'll be more than happy to help put things together.
Awesome, great.
Yeah.
so the thought even is, there's a couple things that we've talked about from before. For example, I know one of the ones that there was a lot of energy last year was people walking or biking on the wrong side of the road,
Yes.
right? So that seems like a video that we could create, that we could maybe do ourselves. I don't know if you have to have a professional actor, if you will, to do that. But, and put that in as part of our additional materials we have to share and leverage with people. Those kind of things, right? I mean, we could even do something
There's
maybe.
stock footage too that we can.
There's stock,
get,
yeah. But even something like, Art was talking about today with the water issue, right? I mean, we could literally talk about that and have a quick video on, safe and not dealing with that, because, we're going to have those before again. So that whole ability to engage people via that kind of media, I think we have some space, and I have explored a little bit. I think we have some funding in the budget if we do need to build that out a little bit. okay? But if we can do some of it ourselves, that's great too, obviously. So, that's awesome. Joy, anyone want to add to that? These are all great opportunities to engage with the community.
I think this list is wonderful. It really is. Thank you very much for putting it together.
Yeah.
I was about to say, as you think about, the idea of creating media, just remember that in the world we live in now, everybody has almost a movie quality camera in their pocket. So,
Yep.
we don't necessarily, for a lot of the things we want to communicate, we don't have to focus on, make sure we've got this camera or that, an iPhone, and, you can almost cut it on the phone sometimes. And then getting it placed is probably the more important part. Focusing on placement, not so much on, making sure we're spending enough money or all our color is perfect. Let's get the message out.
Getting their attention in 30 seconds.
Right.
Yeah.
My wife would have quite a bit of humor right now. Brad, you looking at me saying you could do it on your phone, but someone could do it. No, but
One is able to.
But Brad, to your point is, we can do. See, a lot of these things, right? I mean, that we want to bring focus to, we can do and raise in these short segments, if you will, to engage people and talk about it. The other thing I would just like to offer to this is, and we've certainly done this, but when we have these opportunities, even if it's a movie night, right? It's nice to sort of show like a quick. But even if one of us could be there and just literally no more than 30, 45 seconds, all right? We're not going to put off the popcorn but really quick, just to bring it to life, like we've done with our community, is bring it to life. Why are we here? We want you to have a great vacation, a great stay. Don't want you to be aware, blah, 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 those kind of things. And you have somebody sharing that, right? It just makes it so much more personal, right? And so any of those opportunities. Now, one thing
And excuse me one second, but to that point, if anybody's interested in coming to one of these events and talking in front of the concerts, or, their families, their captive audiences, so if you relate a story,
Right.
they'll be able to, relate to that
Right.
and be happy,
Right.
For the information, I'm sure.
Right.
So.
The few of those where you just sit around and talk to people, not necessarily up front, but even afterward, you get some great sharings and perspectives, or folks sharing their first party experiences, and you're sharing, and it makes it connect. And then guess what? They always offer is go share that with the rest of your family or your friends,
Yeah.
right? And keep getting the word out. So, so I would like to offer up one thing. One of the key things, Tim did a lot of things for us, but one of the key things Tim did was sort of organize our efforts in terms of, our spreadsheet, what are our efforts, who's going to do what, when. Would anyone be willing to pick that up from Tim?
Sure, I'll do it.
Art, okay, and it
Be
can
happy.
be a team effort, right? As we start populating this, we also need to know things like, okay, is it going to be Mickey? Is it going to be, Diane? Who's going to be there so we can cover for each other? And so Art, if you could just start building that out for us.
Sure.
We can start with the one we had before.
Yeah, I think we can send him the one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then you're just updating.
And you
Yeah, and
run
I-
with it however you want to.
What I could do is I could draft something, send it out to you guys, see what you think. But I
Cool.
think the key is to communicate and just to hold, basically, so we have somebody that's, accountable, for lack of
Right.
a better term. I mean, not that we're going to punish somebody, but, just so it's clear who's doing something. Because a lot of times you'll think, oh, so-and-so's doing it, and they think you're doing it, and then it just doesn't work.
Right,
But again, I think the real key is, like we talked about before, is just making people aware.
right.
I mean, in the off-season, it's important, but during the summer, it's absolutely critical, because again, there's people that, even just over New Year's, there was, I remember up on, by, the Blue Coast, there was like a group of 6 or 7 people walking the wrong direction, basically taking up the whole side of the shoulder, and I saw all this stuff, and it's just, it's, again, people I just don't really think through the process, and the fact that they're not the only people here, and that you have to be sensitive to other people, and it's all just an awareness thing.
Right.
And I think, again, people are getting much better in terms of stopping for pedestrians crossing the
Yes.
highway. As somebody that goes across the highway all the time, I can tell you it's markedly better than it was a year, 2 years ago. People are starting to get the message, and I think we need to do is just continue to drive home that, just make people aware that people are going to be coming the wrong direction. So when you come out to make a turn, you have to look both ways. You can't just assume they're going to be coming one way.
Right.
Walkers are going to pop out of places that you'd never expect. You just have to be kind of on alert all the time when you're around here. And it's a very subtle thing, but we have to just kind of continue to drive that forward.
Right.
The one thing that we had talked about a little bit, and I hope I'm not jumping ahead on the agenda, was perhaps having like little signage up on certain spots just to, again, continue to drive the message about awareness.
Yep.
And what I was thinking was, I walk a lot on the trails around here, and one of the nice places to walk is over at Fresh Pond. And they have some great signage about, again, if you're biking, you're supposed to tell people, when you're passing them, and always pass on the left. And I mean, they just have a nice, it's not a long list, but it's a very subtle kind of reminder that I think would be useful. I mean, you don't have to have the exact language from that, but it would be a starting point for just, again, communicating the need to just be aware. That's the whole thing, is just be smart and be aware, because situations are going to change. But if you have some general guidelines in your head about just trying to, again, respect other people in the space that we're in, I think that will go a long way. And if you want, I can take a snapshot of that sign and send it out to everybody if people are interested. And
So-
again, I wouldn't take this verbatim, but it's something
no.
perhaps we
That's-
could use as a starting point. And if we get into this community situation where we're engaging with the people up in Dewey and the people down in Fenwick, maybe if we have a continuous kind of communication strategy up and down,
Yep.
I think that would drive the message home a little better.
Yeah,
So just a thought.
yeah, and at a previous meeting, we talked about dumbing it down, because not everybody knows what the rules are, and different states have different rules.
Right.
So if you take it, did you know, and do a series of, did you know, you're supposed to walk here, not here. And I think that would be a way to get that message out without offending anybody, because
Right.
then, oh, okay, so now, and they'll be just more aware, as you say, more aware, and one way of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, we could even potentially get creative here, and I don't want to get into a whole bunch of stuff, but I mean, if you wanted to, again, to try and drive the message home to parents and kids, is maybe we could have like a cartoon type of figure to try and drive some of this, maybe like, I don't know, little seagulls on bikes, and, just to emphasize which direction you're supposed to go, and which, so, I mean, this could be fun, and we could make it easy to communicate. So it's just a thought I'd throw out there.
So Art, one thing, I'm going to add you to the team, okay?
I'm getting
for that
myself
one.
in this
No,
pretty
that's but again, just think about, this is just sort of an ongoing way of how to engage people, right? And share, communicate, and what's best practices, what can we do to make better? So that's awesome, super.
Well, again, I agree with what Carl says. I mean, I think the J1 students are wonderful, and I'm glad they're here. They're some of the nicest people. When I've been served in restaurants, they're very helpful. But again, I do agree that a lot of times they're the ones that, are not following the safety guidelines. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen them biking the wrong direction with no helmets, like 2 or 3 across. It's not good.
Yep.
So again, if we can direct something to that team, I think that will get a lot of things in place.
Great. So again, lot there. So the next one is around the rectangular rapid fire beacons. And I just put Teresa in that just because that's sort of a council thing we're working on. I think is it Ashford?
Ashwood.
Ashwood, I'm sorry, I always say Ashford. I think that's being designed and laid out, isn't it?
Yeah, so the DelDOT has to shore up the asphalt in that area
Right.
so that there's a place for the beacon.
Right.
And
So
it's
that-
on their list. I don't
So
know.
that'll be the second one just south of the intersection here, because we have one on Wellington, right?
Right,
And
so
this would
people come out of Bethany proper and
Bethany
they want
proper,
a safe
yeah.
place to cross. A lot of people cross there.
Yep.
Busy one.
It is a
Yep.
busy one.
So we'll continue to focus on that. If we move to the next one, the student orientation of the J1 students, Carl, to your point, Sergeant Foley, you were so kind to hold off a little bit. I know it's something you're very passionate about. Go ahead, sir.
I've been looking at my watch and my heart rate. Every time we hear J1 interactions, my heart rate goes up on my watch. Again, we're back here. This summer in particular, my shift alone, I have had countless interactions with J1 students, mostly negative, and that's with either incarceration or bike accidents. I'm not going to beat around the bush. So every time I speak to them, I give them, TLC, and we're very careful because a lot of people from these countries think we're corrupt. They just think that policing in America is corrupt because that's what they're used to. So we kind of walk a fine line with them. So we go above and beyond to show them that we care and we're passionate and we're normal people. So I always ask where they're from, where they work, who they work for. And this summer, again, Vacasa is the big one. I have had contacts, department heads inside Vacasa, Sea Colony, tell me who to go to, and I've sent certain emails to certain people, and they have fallen on deaf ears. And I keep those emails, and I flag them, and I put them in certain folders that I have in my email, and I don't want them to come back and haunt them. I'm sick and tired of this issue falling on deaf ears. So again, I want to, on the town's aspect, start our own safety seminar, and I think we've kind of worked on that. What I've found since our last meeting, Lauren Weaver down at the Chamber of Commerce, she informed me that they are doing their own, and we are more than welcomed to join theirs. I kind of mentioned that we may want to take a pot, because every J1 student in the area, whether they live in Millville, Frankfurt, South Bethany, or Bethany, they all come here. 'Cause this is where they work, and this is where they vacation, this is where they spend their money. So they all come here. I think it's worth hosting our own. Bethany Beach Volunteer Fire Company, their EMS, they're on board. Again, in years past, we've done this. I sound like a broken record. We've done this down at Sea Colony every single year with probably 350 to 400 students. Every 2 weeks for, I think, a month and a half, when they arrive to the country, which is very important when they arrive. I'm encouraging this group. I will take it. I will do a bulk of the work to get this done. We can reach out to banks. BB Hospital, South Coastal Hospital here in Millville, they're great. They come and talk about sexual assaults. I mean, I know I don't want to talk about it, but this does happen to J1 students. Sunburns, just little things like that. Medical care, EMS talk to them about, if they're ill, and co-pays and insurance and all that kind of stuff. OHS and DelDOT, I threw it to Mr. Fiore again. I spoke to him recently about it. He would be on board. He mentioned Mariners Bethel, the church in Ostrue. They donate a lot of bikes, and DelDOT actually comes to the location. They do like a bike rodeo, like a safety seminar for the J1 students that participate. I might want to hold off on that just for this year, just to see how many people we can get to come. I spoke to Julie maybe November about this issue. I have something typed up for our social media, ready to go. I just want the committee to say yay or nay on it. I was pretty much going to put out there to the local businesses, and most importantly the employers in the immediate area, and as far as Millville and Frankfurt, to see how many employees that they host or employ, and whether or not they would want to come to the town's event. And again, this could be something that we could do up on the boardwalk, on the bandstand, and have 85 J1 students out there listening to us talk about real people and real situations, giving them bike lights, giving them welcome kits, and getting them fresh, getting them while they're here. This isn't something that should wait till June or July, which we have had St. Martha's Church. That's a great event. I love it. But what we as the police department try to do, we try to do that in April and May when they get here. So that's my pitch. I will do whatever it takes. I will do all the legwork for this. I would like to see it go somewhere maybe late April, early May when they arrive, based on the feedback that we get from social media, if that makes sense. Social media this day and age is great. We do all our marketing. We do all our lost dogs. I mean, you'd be surprised how many likes, comments, and engagements that we get. I have something typed up. My wife is a elementary school teacher. She proofreads everything that I do, so it's going to be very professionally written. Simply putting out there to say, this is what the town is trying to do. I don't want to step on the chambers. I spoke to her about this, Lauren. I don't want to step on their toes. I just want to do our own so we can control it and we can get people. We deal with them all, so we may as well do something for it. That's in addition to the trolley rides and all that stuff, the information booths and the bike checkpoints. But this J1 seminar, to get the ball rolling, I think probably this week or next I'll get something thrown out on our social media to get some kind of community engagement of great idea, not a great idea. If you have Facebook and you follow the police department or the town, you can see the comments that are left on there. you can get an idea of what kind of concept it may be based on the comments and feedback that you get, if that makes sense. So that's my pitch, and I will not stop talking about this, to be honest with you. It's very important after the summer that we had. These are great kids. They work their tails off. They work 2 or 3 jobs. I cannot stand picking them up on the side of the road unconscious and sending them off to a hospital, and nobody's there to help them. So in order to get out and help curb this issue is to start now.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Thank you.
One of the things I've noticed is a lot of J1 students have uniforms. In other words, they're issued black shirts because they work in restaurants and things like that. One of the things I thought about that we could do, because they're riding at night, is maybe seeing if we can't get some vests. They're very, joggers wear them. They're just reflective things that they could throw on over it that would help them be seen, regardless of whether they turn on a light or they have a helmet. At least somebody can see them when they're riding, because sometimes you just can't see them. Once you're outside of the lit area of the FIBOs, as an example, way up 26.
Yep.
You don't see them.
It also fits in their backpack. It's not bulky. You just throw it in your backpack.
So,
Think so? You don't think they'll wear them?
No, absolutely not. They're all over 18. We've had them on these checkpoints. We've given them helmets. DelDOT, OHS, they have a check off of what country they're from, what they give them, and what they take and what they wear. They'll drive southbound from a checkpoint, and then 25 minutes later they'll come northbound without the helmet, like they just threw it on the side of the road. 2011, I put a worker here, Tim next door. She was from Romania. I put a bike light on her bicycle like 1:35 in the morning. She walked past the bike shed. I was washing my police car. Unfortunately, for other circumstances than that, she was rear-ended by a drunk driver on Kent Avenue and was killed on the side of the road with a bike light. So you can do anything possible to help these kids, and sometimes elements just take over. But clothing, reflective clothing, helmets, they will not wear. Bike lights, as long as we put them on and install them, they're good. They'll use those.
Jefferson Bridge.
Yeah.
Sergeant Floyd, just to build off that a little bit, one of the things I think you've talked about, I know you've talked about before, is this idea of trying to develop sort of some advocates or leaders within that community, right? So it's not just us helping share best practices or this, but if you can actually get a couple people that are influential, they're the informal leaders, right? That say this is the right thing to do, right? Because that's really where the rubble hit the road, right? That it's the right thing to do, it's a cool thing to do, not just because the officer says it or some tall, funny-looking guy says it, but that as colleagues working together, So I think from a committee perspective, does anyone have any? I think moving forward with this initiative is exactly the right thing to do.
I think it's right.
Yeah.
It reminds me actually of college orientation. Like when you're a freshman in college and you go into a dorm, this is the kind of stuff, these are the programs they have for you.
Yep.
So there's no reason that we shouldn't do the same thing.
Yeah, and Sergeant, one of the things we talked about too is maybe to the degree that we can help. I know you've got personal interest, passion around this, right? You can see it in your voice, you hear it, how much this is important. But also having maybe some of us there to sort of back off a little bit the sort of compliance, the stars and bars kind of thing, right? And just talk to people, right? Just the same as we do at St. Martha's, right? Is that engagement piece and to help have the impact. So awesome. All right. So then.
Also, there's the shock and awe factor too. So that story that you just said would really make an impact. It's not just do this because we say so. Do this because your life depends on it.
Right.
And that might be a visual that we could share.
Right. Okay, so the next topic is the workshop. So that's something that the team had a lot of value to do. Is we've done that. We actually started doing that last year, where we invite other communities here or areas of expertise to share with us, leverage. And so what we're moving forward with is we have a date, March 21st. And we have reached out, and we've got DelDOT and T2. T2 is a group at the University of Delaware, does a lot of partnering with local communities to actually sort of be the bookends of this event. So what Teresa and I have come up with is just sort of a plan to look at, we'll have a kickoff, right? It'll be a 2-hour meeting. We'll have a kickoff probably by DelDOT, you know, providing some perspective. We'll give an opportunity for each of the communities that want to participate, 5-10 minutes to share what their thoughts are for the upcoming season so we can learn and share from each other. You get that leveraging, some, hear an idea from Ocean, oh, that's something we can build on, right? And vice versa. And then we would wrap it up, or the last half hour would be the representative from T2 to sort of try to wrap that up for us, right, in terms of some learnings, opportunities they have. So it would be very interactive, learning, sharing. We've got the 2 speakers. They're going to work together. We're working on...
Yes, I've started reaching out to a couple of the communities. I have one of them confirmed, and I'm still finding contacts for a few others. But
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're moving forward with it. I think it'll be a great event. And depending on the numbers, we might even have to move it from here. Well, I know Cliff had mentioned maybe even doing it at the library, depending on if we need it. But this is really a learning, leveraging, sharing of our counterparts in other communities, right?
Yes.
And so, Teresa and I were sort of, as we were talking to a couple of folks with DelDOT, and if everybody, they participate, and everybody's big, right, everybody, that's a pretty high goal. But if people walk out of that meeting that we have energized, fired up with what they can do in their own communities, just a little bit, that's a success, right? And they also know, okay, I can come to Brad for this, right? Or I can come to Officer Fuller, or I can come to Julie for, whatever it is, right? And then we've got the ball rolling, and so that's the idea. So that's moving forward. Julie, we've got the beach, and we'll share more of that as that's really just starting to come forward, but we'll share with that as we move forward. The beach app communication, you spoke to some of that already, so.
It's in process.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So that's,
So we want to get that going before the season.
Right.
So before May, that will be in place. Right now, we're just tweaking it, making
Right.
sure it's what we want it to look like.
so, and I think the way you all talked about it, right, we have communication that we sort of push out, like newsletters, email. The whole idea of the app, again, this is why I'm not the best person for the app, because that's not the first thing I think about is going to an app. But I'm the minority. But as people go to apps because they want to get information, right? They want to understand, and that we can tie
It's
into.
quickly updated. It's not stagnant information.
Right,
So if
right.
you're coming here for the week, you're going to see what's happening and what the rules are, and just a quick resource.
Right.
Instead of
So-
searching, like trying to find out where it is. Here's the app, there it is.
Right.
One other
Diane,
addition
please.
to communications, BBLA sends out beach news very quickly, whatever you need. So just have them on the list. I usually tell them things too, but
Yeah.
when like the chamber talks to them, they send out fire and ice. They can do that very
Yeah.
quickly to all
I've been in touch
property
with
owners.
Mary Louise.
Yeah.
To get that information. Thanks.
Yep. And Diane, would you mind, again, you know how this works a little bit, would you mind joining that team too? That, the whole app and communication, because of you're on the board with
Yeah.
BBLA. That'd be an awesome connect with us, right? Is that okay? All right. And then lastly, we have community engagement opportunities. So this is where we really go out. We offer up to be able to have some sampling of us to talk about whatever communities want to talk about that can help their residents, right? I know we've done it at Bethany West. We've done it at some other communities. So I think those are great opportunities to reach out and engage people, whether it's their community annual meeting or something like that. So what I just offer it to folks as you are working and network with other people and communities, as you see people or groups that might be willing to have us, right? Or they please just dial that up with us, and we'll get it scheduled. Any one of us can go and speak, and I know we've done it a couple times at Bethany West. I think it's been pretty well received, showing a couple of videos and get some good dialogue around it. So I know we've done that in others as well. For our new members, any particular areas that you want to jump into? Mark, or?
Well, I mean, based on the earlier conversation, I feel like I can, like, a clear assistance point would be anything that involves communication.
Okay,
And, you know, more than happy to sit on that. And then,
okay,
because our home backs up to Route 1, I'm also very interested in the RRFB.
Okay.
If I can be assisted with that.
okay, great. Mark, anything jumps out to you just to get you?
Yeah, I think both the J1s, I'd be willing to help with that.
Okay,
And the community engagement as well.
okay, awesome. All right, so we'll update that, and again, this doesn't preclude anyone from working on any of it. It's just really to sort of, really just trying to divide and conquer a little bit. You know, we can go out, we can keep making progress, we'll come back and share, or if we run into any barriers, we need money, we need whatever, please, we'll bring it forward, and it'll just be our normal status update at our meetings, so.
Could I ask just in general about
Please.
the workshop with surrounding communities? How
Uh-huh.
far does our effort to include folks stretch? Do we just go up to the bridge, to the North Bethany communities up there and then down to Fenwick, or do we go all the way to Dewey, or how extensive is the effort?
So I started with Lewis,
Okay.
and then I plan to go to Fenwick and maybe Ocean View. I mean, at some point, we're gonna run out of time.
Right.
And it also kind of depends on who responds. Lewis is the one that responded. They're definitely coming.
Yep.
Oh, good.
They have a very active pedestrian and bicycle safety committee, and they've been working with DelDOT on connecting trails, and they have a lot of interesting information, I think, to offer. So I
That's
started
great.
there.
Yeah, when I've driven around Lewis, I'm very impressed with the way they've, made safety a priority up there in
Yes.
terms of making sure that, people are aware of where bikers are crossing and to be,
Yes.
cognizant of it, et cetera, et cetera. So that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But if we were to extend that down a little bit, I know we, Seth Hammond has been here
Yes.
before, the North Bethany Coalition, so that really covers all those communities south of the bridge into Bethany. I think they'd be interested. South Bethany has been here and partnered with us
Right.
before, so I think we have a pretty good. We're just gonna say it. I mean, we're gonna make it voluntary. It's actually up to them if they see value in it. We might have 3 communities, we might have 6 or 7, and we'll work on the timing to make it fit, and, we were even thinking of having some kind of like break bread afterwards where we can
Yeah,
just
pizza or
continue to
something.
socialize and leverage and share, so, go ahead, Carl.
A guy that we had here last year from, I think it was the Sussex Riders, the
Yeah.
bike
Yeah.
club up in, he'd be a great guy to have back because they had a real protocol, a whole program for staying safe on fairly long rides, crossing roads and.
Yep. So, what we might do is, Carl, I think we're a little, we're trying to fit this into 2 hours, right, to make it doable. So we've got the 2 speakers sort of committed right now to bookend that. We reached out to a couple others, and we didn't hear back yet, so we've got that. But we could certainly include them as a participant, even if they, or
He
we'll
had
see.
written
Yeah.
stuff that he could
Yeah,
Yeah, handouts.
give out,
Yeah.
hand out, which might be beneficial
Yeah.
to,
yeah,
Ocean
absolutely.
View or
Yep.
South Bethany or Fenwick.
Yep. So we'll see. That's a great idea. So we're just trying to fit it into 2 hours, and it depends who responds back to us. And but I think it's going to be a fun event, and it's sort of us stepping up and saying, look, we're all, as I shared with someone shared with me, when you go for particularly a bike ride, you're not just biking around Bethany. You're going north and south and east. Well, you can't go east very far, but west. You probably go a lot less the way the beach is right now, but.
Yeah, a lot less.
But generally, so,
Well,
Oh,
if
great.
this works out well, and I think it will, we can rotate that maybe Lewis does one, or
Sure.
South Bethany
yeah.
does one, so that we keep the
if
communities
it
together.
if it works, I think it'll be a nice, stepping stone for this. So, good, okay. So, can you just, it looks like it's, just the last one I think is just, can you just move it forward?
Maybe the battery's dead.
I'm sorry, Will, I'm not getting any,
Oh, there you go.
Just the next one, okay. So, any other items that we haven't brought up that anyone wants to raise?
Well, the only other thing, if I may, I'm talking
Sure.
too much, I'm sorry.
No, this is great, Art, that's why we're here.
Is, one of the things I think, if it hasn't been done already, that would be useful would be to reach out to some of the bike shops around here to just kind of get their input in terms of our efforts. I don't know if that's been done in the past, but I know that there's some very knowledgeable people here, and it wouldn't be a bad idea just to have a conversation with them to kind of get their input.
Okay.
I mean, again, sometimes I guess we're going from regular bikes now to e-bikes. I don't know what kind of impact that has, but I think these shop owners obviously have a vested interest in, successful biking in this area, and as well as pedestrian safety.
Okay.
So if there hasn't been an effort to reach out to the various places here, it might be worth doing just to see what their thoughts are. I mean, they may not even be interested in talking to us, but if at least we made the effort, I think that would be worth it.
Spot on. I think that can be, again, part of our situational awareness activities, Wave 2.0, as a resource, right?
Okay.
So if you all, between Julie, Teresa, Carl, and Art, right, can work on including them.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure Bicycle Connection up here would be very interested in participating. and
They're
I'm sure
wonderful
they-
people.
They're
That's where I
great.
go.
I'm sure I'm surprised they're not, yeah, I think it's spot on. It's awesome. Great idea. Okay, so the next dates we have set aside are, and I apologize, we've moved these around a little bit. We wanted to try to clear some space around, so we're not overlapping the same week we have a town council meeting. So the next meeting we have scheduled for an update will be February 8th, which I believe also is a Thursday at 8 a.m. And then 10 a.m. I'm sorry, I can't even read my own. And then the next one, our meeting will actually will overlap with our community meeting sharing. So we'll have that during March 21st at 10 here. Okay? So do we have a motion to adjourn? No, please, I'm sorry, other items, and that means the community. Please, Janie, please, I'm sorry.
So in relation to the J1 students, you were talking about having a meeting here? Is that what you were saying, that when you said, the meeting may have to be moved to the library?
Well, the library meeting was potentially, depending on the participation we get for this learning event in March,
Okay.
if that were to get a little bit bigger than we can handle here.
So my point is the library would be a better place for a variety of reasons. If these students need a safe place, if they need resources, if you initially had the meeting at the library, you would be teaching them about what we have right here. It could be a safe place to go if they needed it, a safe, dry place. There's computers, there's books and movies and staff.
Okay.
So I'm just thinking, you're talking about young people, girls, young women and men, and I guess I'm especially thinking about the women. If they need a safe place to go,
Right.
they're not going to come here. As wonderful as this is, they might go to the library to feel
Okay.
safe, or just to have a resource. The library could even give a presentation on what they have there.
Okay,
So
good. All right, that's a good
was
upgrade. So,
just a thought.
again, Sergeant and Diane, Mark, will sort of factor that into, or it's an option, right? We don't even have to have them
Yeah,
all in the same spot. We can,
Library was an option from the get-go.
Yep.
Bethany Beach Fire Company has a huge meeting room upstairs, and they invited us over there too for that, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I think they
but
would
the
like
safe
that. I think,
perspective is, or the concept of a safe spot, I think is
Yes.
a great one to
Yes.
add. I hadn't really thought about it that way, so.
well,
And-
the fire department's a cool place to be,
Yeah.
so that's an attraction. Library, not as cool, but a great resource. I think it's very cool, but just another place they could go. So
Great,
this isn't so, it's cool for us, but
yeah.
As a police officer, I think the library is way cooler than the fire department.
okay.
Thank you, Jenny, appreciate it. Okay, so do we have a motion to adjourn for the month?
I so move.
Okay, thank you, Art. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second? Okay. Great, thank you, everyone. Have a great week, and appreciate your, again, your effort, your enthusiasm, everything you're doing to help our community. It means so much, so thank you all. Will, thank you, as always. Appreciate it, sir.